NFL this weekend. They didn't even have him on his board, on their board. They took him off. And they took him off because the owner said, take him off. I don't want that guy. I don't want this entitled person on our team.
Now, Tom Brady is getting pulled into all the drama about Shedeur Sanders and the NFL draft. People are going after him. Fans are mad at Tom for not helping Shedeur when he really needed support.
A lot of this was because of Shedeur Sanders. I think a lot of this was about a message to his father. A lot of this was about, hey, you'll never run this. This is us. We ain't even hire you as a coach in the National Football League. What makes you think you'll have that kind of say?
Tom Brady sabotaged Shedeur because he's plotting one last comeback? It's not as crazy as you might think. Mark Davis wanted Tom Brady to be a part owner so bad, he basically gave him 5% of the Raiders for hundreds of millions less than it was.
But Tom's clapping back, saying his hands were tied. And here's the kicker. He claims the NFL straight up blackballed Shedeur and his brothers. Tom's been known as Deion's right-hand man when it comes to mentoring Shedeur, so people expected him to make calls, pull strings, knock on doors, whatever it took to get Shedeur into the league earlier.
In a car and more time in the film room.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that.
And I seen you have one too, Tom. Don't think I seen.
I was just a rental. Hey, I had a few bucks in my pocket at that point. I see some car stores
with Tom, did it come about through your dad or something?
Well, far back, I'll say a couple years ago, he extended his hand. He was like, come work out with me in Tampa. We flew down there, Dad came, and we rode with him. He took me in his truck to this field, to his high school field. Then from then on, he was just telling me knowledge, and I filmed everything, I recorded everything. So now, even sometimes I go back and just listen to the things that he said at that time, and it registers. You know, everything that he said back then registers now, and it applies. So that's what I'm thankful for.
But when draft day ended and Shedeur didn't get picked, everyone started looking at Tom like, where were you, man? Tom says he tried to help, but the NFL had already decided to keep Deion's sons, Shedeur and Shiloh, out on purpose. Why? Some insiders say it was a power move. Basically, the league wanted to send a message and put Deion's sons in their place. But here's the real question. What did Deion do that made his sons get caught in the middle of all this? Something doesn't make sense. Now people are talking, and Tom is getting dragged. The one calling him out the most is Skip Bayless. He's been throwing serious shade on Twitter, blaming Tom for ruining Shedeur's shot at the draft. Skip tweeted, "It's now pretty clear Tom Brady, who mentored Shedeur, told the Raiders not to pick him. Duly noted." And he didn't stop there. In another tweet, he said, "How could Tom Brady's team skip over Shedeur again and again and again?"
Question before I go, Tom, do you think a college kid needs a Phantom, like a Rolls Royce?
Nah, hey, no, it's not a Phantom. It's a Rolls Royce Cullinan.
I think he needs to get his ass in the film room and spend as much time in there as possible.
Thank you,
less
Tom.
time in the car and more time in the film room.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate
And
that.
I seen you have one too, Tom. Don't think I seen.
I was just a rental. Hey, I had a few bucks in my pocket at that point. I see some car stores when we're together.
It's a messy situation. Why? Because guess what? Tom Brady owns part of the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, that team. So fans thought it was a sure thing that Shedeur Sanders would end up there. The Raiders are one of the flashiest teams in the NFL. But nope, it didn't happen. Now people are starting to wonder, did Tom stop the move on purpose? It gets even crazier. Tom has been helping and mentoring Shedeur for almost 5 years. They've trained together, spent time on the field, and done interviews. Tom has always said great things about Shedeur. He's called him focused and talented and told him to keep working hard. So now people are asking, was Tom just talking, or is something bigger going on behind the scenes? You'd think Tom Brady would do everything he could to help his protege, Shedeur Sanders, get picked early and land on a strong team. After all, Tom knows how it feels to be overlooked. He was the 199th pick in the 6th round back in 2000. Even though he became the greatest of all time, he still remembers the pain of being passed over again and again, especially when he knew he had talent. But here's the twist. People are saying Tom couldn't help Shedeur, even if he wanted to. Why not? Because some powerful people in the NFL were secretly working to bring Shedeur and the rest of the Sanders family down. Reports say top NFL decision-makers were pulling strings behind closed doors, not just to delay Shedeur's draft, but to embarrass him. These insiders made sure he wouldn't be picked on day 1, or even day 2. They didn't just want him picked late. They wanted most teams to leave him off their draft boards completely.
I've been covering sports for 30 years plus. I have never seen a projected first-round pick drop like this. 5 quarterbacks, as of the time of taping this show, have been picked. There was speculation he was going to be number 1.
Right.
Now, ultimately, Cam Ward, it was always him or Cam Ward. But how the hell you go from speculating about him or Cam Ward to Jackson Dart and...
When the 2025 draft started, people thought Shedeur would be picked early, maybe in the first round, or at least by the early 3rd round. But what really happened? He got picked in the 5th round, 144th overall. That felt like major disrespect. Fans were shocked, and shocked isn't even a strong enough word. People started to whisper that something shady was happening behind the scenes, and guess what? They weren't wrong. Because let's be real, Shedeur isn't just some random quarterback hoping to make it. This clearly isn't about talent anymore.
Clearly, it's not about talent anymore. It's about something else. And I'm going to tell you, I spent a large amount of the last 24 hours thinking about nothing more than I was thinking about collusion. Because how in the hell does 32 teams in the National Football League pass on a quarterback that was universally recognized one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country entering this draft, and 32 teams passed on him? Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 different times they passed on him. How the hell has that happened? 4 rounds. It doesn't happen to a quarterback. We've never seen anything like this before. We've seen guys drop because of injuries. We've seen guys drop because of off-field issues, but we've never seen a quarterback projected to be a top 20 pick, universally recognized one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft, projected to be a first rounder, in all likelihood a safe bet of a late first rounder, and drop literally to the 5th round. We haven't seen anything like that. And when you're talking about the owners, I'm gonna keep in mind, and I tweeted about this, seems very Kaepernick-like, as in Colin Kaepernick.
He's football royalty. His dad, Shedeur Sanders, is a true legend. He's not just in the Hall of Fame. Deion changed the whole style of football. He brought flash, energy, and confidence. People either loved him or couldn't stand him. Deion never just came to play. He came to take over and make sure everyone knew he was there. Now here's the big question. Is Shedeur being punished because of his dad's legacy? Or is the NFL just not ready for another Sanders to shake things up? Deion didn't just play football, he owned the field. He would show off right in front of the other team to prove they couldn't keep up. And the crazy thing? He wasn't just talking. He backed it all up with his game. Even now, people still talk about how fast, athletic, and fearless he was. He was like a machine. With a legacy like that, you'd think his son Shedeur would have been picked early in the NFL draft. Like, top 3 rounds, no question. But that didn't happen. Even the President of the United States was confused. He literally said, "What's wrong with NFL owners? Are they stupid?" He called Deion one of the greatest college football players ever, and even better in the NFL. He also said Deion is a smart and sharp coach, and that Shedeur has star-level talent in his blood. The president even said a team should grab Shedeur right away if they want to win. But none of that happened. Not even close. Everyone was shocked. So what's the deal? Why the delay? Why the cold shoulder? According to insiders, the NFL decision-makers weren't just ignoring Shedeur. They were trying to teach him and his whole family a lesson. Word is, it wasn't just about Shedeur's stats. It was about telling Deion, Shedeur, and Shiloh to stay in their place. Some people in the league thought they were being too loud and too confident, and they didn't like that. And here's where things get even messier. People online started asking, who's really to blame for this? Is it Deion's? Bold energy? Shedeur's confidence? Or is Tom Brady secretly involved too?
How the NFL views you and values you, they will humble every player. And so I think for the Sanders camp, they had this perception of Shedeur as a lock top 2 or 3 draft pick, and they approached the process that way. And there was never anyone from the outside who could get through to them and say, wait a second, he's not guaranteed to be a top 2 or 3 draft pick. And the fact that you are approaching this process that way is hurting him. You know, there's this almost folk story about Deion. The New York Giants asked him to take the Wonderlic during his pre-draft process, and he raised his hand and said, what pick do you have? And they answered, and he said, I'll be gone by then, and he got up and left. Now, I don't know if that story's true or not, but it's been around as long as I've been alive, right? And it almost felt like they were handling the process that same way of saying, okay, well, we're not gonna give our all to teams drafting late in the first round because we're not gonna be there. And it felt more like they were saying, why should we want you? Why should Shedeur Sanders want the New York Giants or the Cleveland Browns or the Pittsburgh Steelers? Instead of what every other prospect does is they go into those interviews and say, here's why you should want me. You're selling yourself. It's a job interview. And they really didn't. And there was never anyone from the outside who could get through to them and say, wait a second, he's not guaranteed to be a top 2 or 3 draft pick. And the fact that you are approaching this process that way is hurting him. You know, there's this almost folk story about Deion. The New York Giants asked him to take the Wonderlic during his pre-draft process, and he raised his hand and said, what pick do you have? And they answered, and he said, I'll be gone by then, and he got up and left. Now, I don't know if that story's true or not, but it's been around as long as I've been alive, right? And it almost felt like they were handling the process that same way of saying, okay, well, we're not gonna give our all to teams drafting late in the first round because we're not going to be there. And it felt more like they were saying, why should we want you? Why should Shedeur Sanders want the New York Giants or the Cleveland Browns or the Pittsburgh Steelers? Instead of what every other prospect does is they go into those interviews and say, here's why you should want me. You're selling yourself. It's a job interview. And they really didn't approach it that way. And I think, you know, I don't know that it was personal from the NFL. I think people were just turned off by how they handled the process. And then you have to go through the conversation of how much attention are you willing for a backup quarterback to have in your building? Because once you get past the starter portion of the draft, you're a backup. Once we got there, it becomes the conversation of, okay, do we want all this attention around a quarterback that might be our 3rd guy? And at Cleveland, he might be the 4th guy. And so I think once the slide started, it was hard to stop because of.
And here comes the idea that's got people talking. Some people think Shedeur and his brothers don't match what the NFL usually likes to show about black athletes. You know the type of story. They love the came from nothing kind. The ones where the player's mom had a drug problem, the dad was in jail, and the kid grew up in a tough neighborhood. The NFL pushes those stories like they're part of what makes a player worthy. But that's not Shedeur's story. He had 2 loving, successful parents. His dad is a football legend. His mom has always supported him. He didn't have to fight. His way out of a bad situation, and that seems to bother some people. It's like the NFL doesn't know how to handle a black player who grew up in a stable, successful home. It's almost as if they expect pain to come before success. And when they don't see that pain, they act like something's missing. That's who the Sanders brothers are. They didn't grow up poor or hungry. They had a good life, thanks to Deion Sanders, who built wealth and gave them a strong, loving family. You can see Deion hugging his sons, coaching them, and always being there, right out in the open. But here's what really bothers some people. Even though they had a privileged life, they still shine.
Where do you think you'll get drafted if you ran this year's draft?
I'm biased because I don't see a quarterback better than me. Okay. I don't see a quarterback that went through as much adversity as me, that done had 4 different OCs in 4 years. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Like coming from an HBCU, coming to a Power 5, having real pressure on. Right. A lot of people don't understand it's a lot more adversity than you think, just even being the son of Deion Sanders.
Mindset when you play corner compared to playing quarterback. You can't act like a cornerback when you're playing quarterback. Quarterback's a humble position. You got to be respectful. You got to be a leader. You're the face of the franchise. There's so much more responsibility that comes along with it. That's what he has to understand.
The Sanders boys can really play. They're not just kids famous because of their family. They got real athletic talent from their dad. Like Trump said, that kind of skill is in their DNA. You can count on that. But none of that seems to matter, because Shedeur and his brothers don't do interviews talking about tough childhoods or needing the NFL to save their family. Here's the truth. Whether they got picked in the draft or not, Shedeur and Shiloh would be okay. Missing out on early draft picks hurts, but they still have money. People say NFL bosses didn't like that these brothers didn't need the league. That's where the problem started. But it got worse. Some insiders say Shedeur messed up his interviews before the draft, and it might have cost him a lot. Reports say he missed many interviews during draft season, saying he was hurt. But others say he just didn't show up without telling anyone. And when he did show up, he acted cold, full of himself, and like he didn't care. One NFL assistant, coach, who wanted to stay anonymous, said his interview with Shedeur was the worst he ever had. He said Shedeur sounded like he thought he deserved everything without trying.
Do you predict Shedeur and Travis going in the draft?
Top 4.
Ooh, that's pretty beautiful.
Anywhere from 1 through 4. One of them is going to be 1.
That's what I'm talking about.
One of them is going to be
speaking
1.
into existence.
And the latter one would not go behind 4. Now, all this is subjective because I know where I kind of want them to go. And let's not forget Shiloh, okay? But I know where I want them to go. So there's certain cities that ain't gonna happen.
Okay, you on point.
It's gonna be it's going to be an